You are listening to Fantha tracks.
He's waiting.
Classic Star Wars and the collectibles they gave us. From vintage Star Wars to the modern era of the saga. This is Collecting Tracks. Here are your hosts, Richard Hutchinson and Chris Leddy.
Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Collecting Tracks. I'm Richard Hutchinson.
And I'm Chris Leddy.
And we're your hosts for episode 9, Christmas Then and Now. Well, Chris, it hasn't been that long since the last show, so, you know what, I can't imagine you being too busy, not being up to much lately.
No, you know, just the normal things during the holiday season. Just last minute shopping, gonna sneak that stuff in. Just, we realize how expensive holidays are and looked at my shelves and said, hey, maybe a few things could go to cover some of those costs. So yeah, I've been going through some stuff there and maybe some gifts for other people. I don't know. Just looking forward to some time off. I've got week off between Christmas and New Year's. So looking forward to recouping and the like. So yeah.
Well, yeah, about Christmas. I mean, my kids are older now, but it doesn't get any easier. They're at that stage now where they just say they want cash. And yes. Especially with the wife, she'll go, I can't just give them a cash, so I'm going to buy them this as well. And I'm like, well, deduct it off the cash they're getting then.
I know, right?
Come on. No, it never works like that. So it's going to have to come to a point where we're going to have to say, right, that's it. You're old enough now. We've got jobs. You're getting...
Exactly. You can buy your own gifts.
Yeah. Well, I woke up for the holidays. I woke up Friday and we went down to Manchester to see the local Christmas market, which was actually pretty good. So I don't understand why Edinburgh Christmas market is like the top 3 in Europe, because it was absolutely dire when we went last year. The Manchester market was far better. So I had a good time in Manchester, having a look around. And I was at Liverpool the month before, doing a bit of the Beatles tour.
Oh, wow.
Having a look
awesome.
at some Cavern Club and things like that. I'm not a Beatles fan exactly, but a bit before my time. But yeah, it was good to do. I enjoyed it from a historical point of view. And
awesome.
I'm now all booked up for Tunisia, so I've been liaising with Gus.
Ooh.
I'm going in April, which means I'm going to miss the next Echo Live show once again. I'm sure those guys put it on deliberately when I'm away.
Sure, yeah, definitely.
So, I'm all booked up. I've got my places to go all marked out. I just need to sort out car hire, and then I'm all done for Tunisia. So, expect some wonderful photographs from Tatooine when I get myself over there.
That's going to be amazing. Something great to look forward to. That's for sure.
Absolutely. And then who knows after that? Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I thought for this show, we talked about, doing everybody does the top 5, the top 10, it's getting towards Christmas and things. But I thought, why don't we do something different? Because to the best of my knowledge, no podcast has done a top 5 Christmas Star Wars gifts of then and now. And I thought it would be pretty cool to have a look at 1983 and 2023, exactly 40 years apart, and to see what would each of us have wanted under our tree. Now, Chris, I don't know how you approach this, right? But when I looked at 1983, it wasn't really in the spirit of things to say, well, I would like me mum to have written off to Ken at request to Rocket Fire and Fett, because that's what I definitely want. I thought I'll approach this as, 1983, I would have been 6 years old. So I thought, right, what would I have wanted when I was 6 years old back in 1993, possibly 7, and that's how I approached it. How did you go about that one?
Yeah, I had to do something similar because I was only 3 years old in the Christmas of 1983. So I didn't really have Christmas list, so to speak. But I kind of thought of myself like, maybe, in that like 8 to 12-year-old range, prime, like Star Wars, kind of toy play, time frame as a child. So I kind of looked at it that way and kind of looked at, what was out there, what was in the catalogs, what was available for, that whole year, and by Christmas of 1983. So, yeah.
But when I did research on this, I was astounded to see how much was still available from A New Hope.
Yeah.
or Empire Strikes Back. It was unbelievable. So I was looking, thinking, oh, well, everybody's going to want the AT-AT. I'm going to put the AT-AT on my list. But I thought, hold on a second. It's 1983. Think about it. Would I have still wanted an AT-AT in 83 if that had came out the year before? So I thought I'd stick with December 1983 new things. So, and
I know.
By complete coincidence, the 5 items that I put down, I actually had them all as a kid.
No way.
And I didn't have a massive collection. My parents, they relied heavily on richer relatives, I think, when it came to Christmas and birthdays. But certainly the 5 items I put down here, I had. It's not to say I didn't have a great collection. I definitely had the Millennium Falcon, and I had an X-Wing, and I had Darth Vader's TIE Fighter. But that would have been it from the big vehicles and ships and playsets. I didn't have anything else. And I had quite a lot of mini rigs and things. So, that's probably true to say of most of the people in the North, I'd imagine.
Yeah. Yeah. Over here, same thing. Star Wars toys were in every young boy's household, it seemed like. And, to think about it, I was at 4 out of 5 on my list of what I had when I was a kid, not necessarily in 1983, but several years later, I eventually had those items in childhood. But yeah, I know. I think back about, even for me later into the 80s and looking at some of the pictures of Christmas time and seeing how amazing, all the presents were. And for me, like the big presents were typically G.I. Joe or Transformers or Masters of the Universe. A lot of my Star Wars stuff came secondhand from, yard sales, boot sales, that sort of thing. And, secondary shops and that sort of thing. But yeah, lots of great memories from childhood. And when you came up with this idea, I thought it was really unique and something cool to kind of go back and see, like, what if I, could have made my list back then.
Yeah, absolutely. We operated on a one main present, and that's what we asked for. So it may be a bike or, I don't know, maybe it's an early video game system or something like that. We had one main present and then everything else was just little things that filled up. Cool. Yeah. So I think the way to do this is we'll go one each. Okay, so I don't know if I intended to put these in order or not, but I started with number 5, but my number 5 could equally be as good as number 1. We were spoiled for choice. So my number 5 I put on there was the Jabba the Hutt playset, and I absolutely loved that thing. I thought it was amazing. I'm going to be honest with you. As a kid, I didn't care for Salacious Crumb. It would have made no difference to me if Salacious Crumb, wasn't there at all. Equally, I didn't care about the hookah pipe and the bowl. The slave collar was also a little bit pointless unless you had Bausch, because what would you clip to it, because obviously there wasn't a slave layer available. But the Jabba the Hutt play set, when you twisted those, the skulls or whatever on the front, the levers, and then it opened up to a dungeon. What a brilliant idea. I absolutely loved that. And I certainly remember cramming my Luke figures and Chewbacca, inside there and slamming the trap down. It was just such a wonderful playset, and I think in the UK it was available for under £10, which you would have had it cheaper in the States due to the the mass production of them. But I thought for something under a tenner, it was still a really, really good price for the playability. You got a really large size action figure and a wonderfully interpreted dungeon system. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, I love the Jabba the Hutt playset. It was going to be on my list too. For me, like I said before, I had never gotten one from new. It was from a yard sale, and I never had Salacious Crumb, never had the hookah pipe or the collar or anything like that. It was just Jabba and the dais there and the part where his fish bowl is, his frog bowl. But man, I loved opening up that, looking at the skull, the skeletons and stuff in the rats or whatever was down there. Loved recreating that scene. Just a great toy, and I really think it holds up really well to today's play sets and stuff like that. It's one of those ones that you have a nice, clean, complete set. It just it stands out in a collection.
Well, you don't see too many of them busted, do they? I mean, they're really, really good quality. You don't see any of them with missing skulls. You don't see them with missing door hinges. Whereas you think of the amount of spaceships, all missing parts of it. I think
Oh my
I
goodness.
mean, yes, you'll be missing hooker pipes and things like that, of course, but not the actual main part of it. It's just such a wonderfully crafted item, and to the best of my knowledge, I've never even seen a damaged Jabba.
Yeah, I mean, I had one Jabba that I had gotten in a collection that somebody turned into a hookah pipe. And let's just say that experiment failed miserably. So that was a interesting one to try to sell on, and it holds up well. You're not dealing with a lot of paint loss and stuff with Jabba, and definitely a classic from the Return of the Jedi line.
Right, let's come over to one of yours and Kristen, so no surprises.
Right. I know, no surprises. All right. So I had to throw in the Rebel Commando figure because that's one of my focus characters. And I do remember getting my first Rebel Commando. It was either for a birthday or for Christmas. It wouldn't have been for 83. It might have been for 84. I love Endor. That's one of my favorite. That's like my favorite part of Return of the Jedi. So that's like the start of the Endor collection for me. The Rebel Commando figure. Not a ton else I have to say about it, but just something that for me as a kid, looking back, I love the G.I. Joe line, or for you guys like Action Man. So I always had my Rebel Commando mixing it up with the Joes. So
would you have been allowed as a kid to have had 2 or 3 and argued that you were army building?
I'm trying to think. The only way that ever happened was if we found a collection from a yard sale that had like a couple stormtroopers or a Hoth soldier or that sort of thing. I only remember, I think I had maybe 2 or 3 stormtroopers, a couple Hoth Rebel soldiers. I had a couple AT-AT drivers for my AT-AT. It wasn't typically something my parents, like, oh, you already have that one. Why don't you pick out a different one or something? Or if, a friend gifted me one at a birthday party that I already had. Never something that, my dad wasn't out hunting 100 stormtroopers to, recreate the scene on a box or something. But
I certainly wouldn't have been, even if I got one gifted, I would have been made to take it back and swap for another one. It's just, just bizarre. They just didn't understand it. All right, number 4 on my list then was, and if I had to have a second character focus, it would have been this one, the Emperor's Royal Guard. I loved that figure as a kid. I love the figure now. I like the on-screen version of that character. The mystery behind it. I love the crimson. I love the cape. I love the, I don't know what the name of it is a force pike or something like that?
Yeah.
Is it called a force pike?
Something along those lines.
I love the whole concept of that action figure. I love the fact that head doesn't turn, which might sound odd, but it just makes that figure even better and better quality. So Emperor's Royal Guard has to have been on everybody's wish list. And at the end of the day, I did next to nothing in the movie at all. It did nothing.
It's background.
But I think it was just the popping colours of that. And you think about the characters in the Jedi line, you had a lot of blacks and browns and greens. And for something to come out that was a vibrant red, wonderful figure, Emperor's Royal Guard. Oh,
yeah, I second that. Definitely one of those figures that I had as a kid. And the first one I ever got was from a yard sale lot. And it had, whoever owned it before had cut off the cape. So I was like, I didn't understand, as a kid. And I kept on looking on the card back and I'm like, but there's one with a cape and then there's this other one. Like, I thought it was a totally separate figure. And I was always, I'd go to the store and be like, oh, I can never see that one. But I finally did get a new one. But I love that figure. The only example, I have one loose in my loose complete run, and then I've got a carded Sakuda Japanese one for that focus. But I feel you there. I I could go down a rabbit hole with that character for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, for me, I'll switch it up away from the action figures. I'm going to go with the Marvel Comics Return of the Jedi miniseries. The first 3 episodes would have been available for Christmas of 1983. The 4th one came out in January of 1984. But I mean, like, I remember having those comics like ever since. My brother must have gotten them for me before I even, really understood what comics were. I just always remember having them in my collection, and it's just those images with the 3 characters on each issue just being so iconic, and telling the story of Return of the Jedi through that medium. Just some of the one of those items that really pops from childhood. But I had to have the comics represented in this list.
Yeah, that didn't have any comics at all as a kid, and I would have loved them. But were those 4 issues the direct adaptation of the movie?
It's been a while since I read them. There might be some things in there that weren't directly adapted from the movie. Don't quote me on that, but I should thumb through them again and reread them.
Hi, this is Ethan Sachs, and you're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Right, well, back over to me then. So number 3. So I went with. I was humming and hawing over this one, but I've gone with it. A, because I had one, and B, because the Palatoy advert for this was absolutely brilliant, and it's one of the very, very few adverts I remember on TV. And this was the ATST, and I'm glad I got one. Although obviously, when you get older and you see the AT-AT and you think, "Oh, I wish I had one of those," but I think I actually would have preferred the ATST purely because of the mechanical features. And to move an AT-AT or an AT-AT, you'd have to move each leg individually, and I think I wouldn't have had as much playability as it, other than a base for the Stormtroopers. So with the AT-AT, at least I had, something I could move quickly. It could chase a biker scout. It could, you had 3 cannons, 4 possibly. 2 on the sides, 1 underneath, 1 on the top, from memory. So you've got a lot of playability with it. And I like the fact that you had like a resting position as well, and that was another vehicle that did not break. And I mean, there should be thousands of ATSTs with missing legs, but you just don't see them. Another wonderful quality vehicle. So I loved it. I loved my ATST.
Yeah, I love that toy. Like you said, the playability is so huge. You unlock those legs, and you can just make that chicken walker, go crazy, in your diorama battle scene or whatever. Yeah, it wasn't until I was, I think, in high school when I was starting to upgrade a lot of my collection. That's when I finally got one that was complete. I didn't realize that there was a top gun, a small top gun on the very top canopy until then. But I love that, and I think, Hasbro's tried to, they've brought out so many over the, the last 20, 25 years, but I think that original sculpt and mechanism, I think it's the best in my opinion.
Absolutely. Now, your next item, if it's the computer game that I'm thinking of, I've got a great story to tell about it.
Okay.
I'm not convinced it was available in the UK in 1983. And equally, if it was, I wouldn't have certainly not had anything to play it on, so I would have been a bit disappointed with it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a stretch. This is like a what if scenario. I'm thinking like, that 12-year-old me, if I was back then, being into, video games and that sort of thing, and wanting to get the newest Star Wars game. I don't have any like actual nostalgia for this game, but I just think like back then how big video games were becoming with Atari and like all these other gaming systems and stuff, and it's right on the cusp of the original Nintendo and everything. It was just, all early 80s, just like that whole video game explosion. This was one that, I could see, seeing in that wish book circling my presents for Christmas, being like, oh my gosh, I want the new, Star Wars video game. And, after seeing the movie earlier in the year and just being excited about Return of the Jedi and stuff, you're like, oh, what could this game be like? And like, I never had Atari, but I'm sure like the game playability was not quite up to the hype of the video game, itself. So
was this the game? So Return of the Jedi Death Star Battle. Is this the one where there was 2 different levels, and one of them you're on the speeder bike, and you've got to you basically go diagonally up across the screen, and you've got to get to the bunker, and then it switches to the run on the Death Star.
I think so. Yeah, I was looking at the different screenshots and stuff for this game, and that's what it looked like. It was was happening in that game.
So if that's the game, then I've got a good story to tell in this one. So I mean, all that game did was flip between the two. So you started off on Endor, and you're on the Biker Scout, and you had to avoid the other bikes, and you could shoot trees and they would fall down and hit the bike behind you. Obviously, very, very basic graphics. Speed up, slow down, and shoot, and that's about it. If you were really lucky, you could fly through a tree trunk. But you had to be, micro pixels accurate, otherwise you hit the side of the trunk, And then on the next level, you flew pretty much identical game, but you're flying through the Death Star, you blow the Death Star up, you turn around, you've got to come back. So a friend of mine had, it certainly wasn't Atari, because we didn't have the Atari video game system in the UK, so I think it was the Commodore 64 possibly, or an Atari ST, which is a different kind of computer game system. And he's now been diagnosed as OCD. Well, OCD didn't exist back then. We just thought he was an annoying twerp, so it was top 10 score at the end. So he'd been practicing this game for days, weeks, and he had his name in position 1 all the way down to position 10. And he was so proud to show me this one day. I remember sitting in his bedroom, and I looked at the high score and I thought, oh wow, MJB, all the way down, those initials, all the way down, top 1 to 10. So I played the game, and I came third. He was absolutely furious because he worked so hard on knocking all these names off the bottom of the list just to have his name. So I really spoiled his summer holiday or whatever it was doing that, and it was because he was OCD. So I've never apologised to him. I do see him, fairly regularly. So next time I see him, I'll remind him about that. But
that's awesome. That's awesome. Oh man. Love it. All
right, and so next one for me, back to another action figure, the Biker Scout. Now, I know a lot of people don't like the Biker Scout, and I don't know why, because I absolutely love it, and I do accept it would be better if its knees could have had a little hinge in them.
Yeah.
But, keeping costs down. I think it was a wonderful figure, wonderfully sculpted. The blaster was pretty accurate, and I like the whole mismatch between the black and the white. It's very, very vibrant. So Biker Scout figure has to be up there for me.
I agree too. That was one of my favorite figures as a kid, and having loved, Endor in Return of the Jedi, that whole sequence. I mean, that figure, that character just really stands out to me. I think, barring a deep dive on some of the newer trooper designs and stuff like that, I mean, the Biker Scout helmet is probably my favorite, definitely from the OT. I just love that design. If I would ever do like 501st, I would definitely do a Biker Scout costume for sure.
Oh, absolutely. And one of the 501st people told me it's a good choice to choose because you can sit down in the Biker Scout costume where you can't in some of the others. So that's a good shout as well.
That's cool. Yeah. Maybe someday. Maybe someday. So my number 2, coming not in the figure realm, I'm thinking again in the mindset of me back then. I loved trading cards. I loved baseball cards. I would love a sealed box of Topps Return of the Jedi trading cards, full, 36 packs, whether it's the blue the series 1, series 2, however many there were. I don't care. I love opening trading card packs to this day. I would just be floored to be able to open up all those packs, and my parents never would have bought me a full box, but filling up my binder, the pages, and trying to complete the set and the stickers and all that stuff. I just, absolutely love the idea of maybe getting a box of trading card, Return to the Jedi trading cards as a kid.
Not for me. Not a fan of trading cards at all. It wasn't really a big thing in the UK. We had stickers where you would stick the stickers
like Panini stickers and stuff.
Stickers, and they were all on football or soccer, as you would say. So we certainly, definitely around about the World Cups, 1986 World Cup and 1990 Italia was just unreal. You're just swamped with these as kids trading them on the school playgrounds. But not trading cards. I certainly don't remember them. I don't remember them at all. But which is odd because they were available in the UK. But
they were. There's UK versions and different. There's some of the collectors in this hobby have gone to crazy lengths at getting all the different versions from all the different countries, and it's pretty intense, how far you can go with trading cards, because like a lot of these other fringe type collectibles within Star Wars, it was easy for a lot of countries to get, make their own version because it's just cardboard, and they can print their own and stuff. So, but for me, love trading cards. I never really got I don't remember getting Return of the Jedi trading cards new, like opening packs. But again, I had several friends, their brothers gifted me boxes of Star Wars cards that range from, the first series all the way up through Return of the Jedi. Of course, they were all completely bent up and rounded corners and all that stuff. But I, as a kid, I thought it was the coolest thing ever going through all those.
And right at the top of my pile, and I think this will be on top of everybody's pile, we're going to be honest with you, the speeder bike. The speeder bike was a wonderful, wonderful design, and complete opposite to the other two play sets, because this is frequently found broken and missing things, and there's no way that I would have had the flaps still. I'd be, just wouldn't have had them. But what a great concept of a toy that breaks that you can put back together again. Again, it's another toy that I wish I had 2 or 3 of them, but I wouldn't have been allowed it, so I would only had 1. But, wonderful, wonderful idea. Love the speeder bike. And Ben Coomber, a friend of ours, he has a wonderful speeder bike collection, and I often look at his boxes and think, they've got everything right on that. Absolutely everything.
This is just, when you think of Return of the Jedi, Kenner line, Palatoy line, whatever, it's the speeder bike is right up there at the top. Affordable, multiple characters can go on it. It's just, it can explode, all that stuff. And it, the way it spring loaded and stands up on its own, it's up there for me. It's, I just redid my display and took my speeder bike out from storage and still got the flaps on there, set it up and everything. Just love that vehicle design. So for me, it kind of goes hand in hand with what we've been talking about. It had to have been the Ewok Village. That's my favorite playset out of all of Star Wars toys. And it's still one of the only things that I have from my childhood still is my Ewok Village playset. Complete. I remember getting it from my neighbor across the street who is maybe 3-4 years older than me. And it was the last item that he had in his collection that he had sold off everything else, and we bought it at a yard sale and still have it today. It's a little bit dusty, but I gotta clean it up. I absolutely love that. And someday when I have a proper display area, I'd love to find a boxed version. I love the box art with all the Rebel Commandos on there and all the Ewoks and other characters. For me, it brings some of the strongest nostalgia from childhood is that playset.
Probably not for me, to be honest with you, that one. I had nothing against the Ewoks. I certainly had plenty of them in my collection as a child, probably 3 or 4 of them I would have thought, and I don't remember the later ones, certainly. But it's too reminiscent of some of the Fisher-Price Treehouse things for me. I certainly remember my sister had this green house where it twisted and had a slide that went down the side of it, and it just looked basically like a house, a greenhouse. And I think I would have thought it was just too similar to that, and I probably would have thought, oh, I'm playing with a baby's toy here. However, I do accept it had a lot of playability. I don't know, just like to me, it was like Yoda's swamp. I wouldn't really have played with it much. So
no, I
sorry
totally
to
get
rain
it.
on your chips.
No. I mean, and it might have been even just that 3-year age gap between us, the different, time frames we were in and what we were looking for. Well, I also used it as a G.I. Joe base and, that sort of thing too. So it had multi-purpose, in my playing. But yeah, no worries.
I probably would have used me most of the universe figures on that thing. I should think about it, like an extension to Castle Grayskull or something.
Yeah,
but I would never have had Snake Mountain. My mum would never have bought Snake Mountain first, so
yeah, I didn't.
Maybe would have done as that.
I didn't have any Masters of the Universe play sets, but I mean, as far as the Ewok Village goes, I mean, I bought a beat up one for my girls to play with, and when we bring it out, they've got everything going on there, whether it's Star Wars figures, Barbies, Marvel Legends, and any figure, any, little character, they're filling up all the different spots and stuff. So even the beater one that I have gets use.
Well, I'm sure our listeners would have, their own top fives, and I'm sure we're missing some blatantly obvious ones, but that's what's so wonderful about this, that I can hear listeners now saying, I can't believe you've not included the. What else was I looking at? The TIE Interceptor, for example. That was another one that could have easily got in there, but, would I prefer that over a TIE Fighter? Definitely not. And I certainly wanted the white one as a kid, and I never got it. But never mind. we're well over that now.
Oh, I know. There's all the what ifs and, I wish this and I wish that. Yeah, I hear you.
For everything in one location. Daily news, reviews, interviews, podcasts, video, and social media feeds. Bookmark FanthaTracks.com for Star Wars news 24/7, 365.
All right, and so moving on to Christmas now, and I found this a lot harder, to be honest with you. I really did, because there's so much cool stuff, but equally there's so much stuff that I'm never going to get, even ask for it. So I went down this one on a tact of what reasonably could I ask for that I think somebody may purchase for me. So the first one I went with was a lightsaber, and I love seeing those master replica lightsabers. They're absolutely amazing, but they cost so much money. But I like the way that collectors have got them ignited on walls, and I've got a staircase that turns and goes, around, and it's very dark there. So I thought, I can imagine putting a few of these on the walls. There's no way it's going to happen. My wife's not going to ever allow me to do that.
I hear you.
There's quite a range of lightsabers available. So the one that I found was only £15.99 on Amazon, and it looks pretty cool. It's retractable with 7 different colours, and I thought, I could have 3 or 4 of them quite happily for the price of a Master Replicas one. So I think a lightsaber is something I could certainly get away with, still being playable but also looking cool, and I could probably get away with it as being, an item of furniture or something. I don't know. I know I'm trying to keep myself here, but I'm never going to get decorative. Item. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah, I hadn't seen these particular ones. Price point is great compared to the Black Series ones and even the more expensive ones like you mentioned. Yeah, I mean they're great, fun. It's multi-use. These ones, one breaks, if you're fighting with your friend or the kids are playing with them or something, like it's not a big deal. Whereas if they're fighting with the expensive ones and they break, it's a totally different story. Yeah, I love those setups. Having the lightsabers up on the wall lit up. Yeah, maybe someday. I've got one Ahsoka Black Series lightsaber from Clone Wars with the blade. But it's not displayed with it. I just have it set out on a shelf, just the hilt. And then I've got a set of the Ahsoka lightsaber hilts from Galaxy's Edge and the Rebels / Mando ones. Again, they're, pretty high quality, but, when they're tucked away in the box, you don't quite get the effect of having them out on display.
Absolutely.
All right, so I'm kind of mirroring my then wish list to now, and this is like me now as what I would ask for if my wife would actually buy me Star Wars stuff, which she does not and refuses to for Christmas gifts. So I put the Black Series Rebel Commando figure that came out earlier this year with, I think it has like different face plates you can put on it, and you can mix and match accessories to kind of create multiple figures if you army build or whatever. And I really like I think the sculpt is amazing, and the artwork on the package is recreation of the original packaging. But something simple, just the Black Series Rebel Commando figure.
It is wonderful. It is a wonderful figure. I'm not sure that I would change the face to the older Rex kind of character.
Yeah.
But I do really like it. But they're surprised by the price. $34. Is that
I know.
How much they retail for over there?
Yeah. I mean, I've never seen one at retail. The secondary, specialty shops have them and stuff. And even though I'm a Rebel Commando focus collector, I have to have my limits. And as much as I think the figure is cool, like if somebody gifted it to me, wink, wink, anybody out there, I would be happy to receive it. But it's not one that I'm going to go out and buy. The price point, it's not ideal, as with most things these days. But yeah, it's unfortunate that, those prices keep jumping up. But, a lot of this stuff ends up hitting clearance. So you never know if you find one out there for cheaper.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first time I've deviated from, toys and action figure related things. So, I was a big gamer as I was old as a child. I don't think you would have had the ZX Spectrum back in the States, but we had basically all my computer games that were keys, like a typical QWERTY keyboard. And still to this day, I can't play on a game
like a console.
Consoles. Yeah. No, I just can't do it. I'm absolutely useless. So I put down Jedi Survivor because it's certainly a game that I would love to play. I really enjoyed Battlefront and Battlefront 2. I really enjoyed those games. There was a game that came out. Was Battlefront 3 a game, or am I making that up?
It may have been.
Right. There was a game that came out, and I want to say it's Battlefront 3, and I was really disappointed with it because it leapt into multiplayer too much, and I'm not a multiplayer gamer ever because I am so bad. I just want to stick to a story and play the game. So I was good at Dark Forces and all the iterations of that and the add-ons and sequels. But as soon as you go into a wider universe where you play against other characters, I lost interest from gaming. So I thought, well, Jedi Survivor, it's it looks amazing. It looks absolutely mind-blowing, and I would be totally pants at it. My stepson has a PlayStation 5, so that solves that problem, and I'm pretty sure I'll be able to get on there and play a few games. So Jedi Survivor for me, although, still to this day, I would say that Dark Forces is the best computer game ever. That was Star Wars related. But, yeah, I would give Jedi Survivor a go.
Yeah, I'm not a gamer these days. I haven't been in about 20 years, but I love the visuals from these games, whether it be Battlefront, Jedi Survivor. I've listened to a lot of the companion audiobooks. Some great characters have come from these games. So I'm a fan adjacent, but not something that I could see myself getting into these days. I don't have the time and I don't have the patience, but I do like watching the cutscenes and some gameplay to kind of get a gist of, where the story fits into the canon of Star Wars. For me, my number 3 is I'm going Lego, and I'm going to go with the Ghost set. The Ghost set isn't, I would look or wish for a UCS set, like a huge one, but this is a fun one, probably complete pretty quickly. I love the Ghost. Looking forward to the HasLab set, and this is it's not too expensive. It's $160 retail, which sounds like a lot, but in Legoland it's not really that expensive. But yeah, just having fun, a set that I can build with the kids. And like the characters that are included, Hera and some of the crew there. Just a fun Lego set that's not going to break the bank.
See, I was never got into Lego as a kid ever, and me, I don't know what relation, some great auntie or something like that. I remember she had this huge tub of Lego, and they were all just big bricks with a big green board that you would stick things on as a base. And now I would spend time down there, but that was only because I was so, mind-numbingly bored out of my head that I would just take the box out and start building these things. But if anybody bought it for us as a kid, I was never interested. And I still got that kind of feeling now, where with Lego, I would put it together in as quick as I possibly could, because I just like doing that. It's just like it's like IKEA furniture. Just put it together as quick as I possibly could, and then I put it on a shelf and go, well, what do I do with it now?
It's funny, it's all about the experience. I feel with Lego these days. I have dabbled a little bit here and there, but most of the Lego sets we get are for the kids, and I've thought about jumping into some of these bigger sets, but to me, I can't justify spending the money for them, because, like you said, you're going to spend all this time building them, and then it's just going to sit on a shelf and collect dust, and you're going to have to, get out, your Candair or duster, but it's almost like I love the idea of it. But yeah, so that's why like this set isn't too intense, because it's like, all right, if I build it with the kids and then they end up taking it and it gets blown up and it gets mixed in with all their Legos, I'm not that, upset about it. But yeah, I was a Lego kid, especially early 90s with all the pirate sets and everything. I absolutely love those sets, and now they're coming out with newer ones, and yeah, it's a rabbit hole that I cannot put my foot down.
All right, then number 3 for me, Hot Toys Dark Trooper. Now, every time I go to Forbidden Planet, I have to stop and admire and look at the slideshow stuff and the Hot Toy stuff. But I love the Dark Trooper, and that all comes back to Dark Forces, the video game. It's just still, it's a dated game, right? I can't defend it from that point of view, but I would challenge anybody of that time period to have played that game back then and then find something that, had that same impact. I mean, some might argue that Doom possibly may have had that level, but I never really got into Doom, to be honest with you. I was just very much a Star Wars gamer. So that Hot Toys Dark Trooper is absolutely fantastic. I love the whole menace, and it looks a really angry figure. And I think Hot Toys have done a cracking job on that Dark Trooper.
Yeah, I can't agree more. The presence that figure has on shelf, the size compared to, the other 6-scale figures that you might have in your collection. I love the aesthetic of it. I thought what it did in the show was pretty cool, not very cool stealing, little baby Grogu, but yeah, I love that. I love that figure, and it's certainly one that I've considered from my own collection. I might have something else on my list that might be connected to your choice there, but yeah, great choice.
Well, that's the kind of figure that's going to push your Ahsoka off the shelf one day, isn't it?
Definitely. Yeah. So this is a random choice, but I started thinking about the stuff that I like in my own collection, the different types of collectibles, and I'm going with a Cybercraft Workshop Captain Enoch helmet, 1-to-1 cosplay helmet from the Ahsoka series. I just thought during that Ahsoka series, seeing that stormtrooper with that gold face, it was just like really stuck out to me. Just something that I could see up on the shelf that would really, really pop for me. The character aside, I just thought it was, the aesthetics and everything are really cool. And this company I hadn't really seen before. I found them on Etsy. They do a lot of helmets, and it looks like the quality of what they put out is really up there. Not cheap. This is not a cheap item, but just a cool thing in the collection.
Yeah, I mean, I was a bit surprised by it, to be honest with you, and I wasn't 100% certain who Captain Enoch was, but once I clicked on it and I realised it was the Tutankhamun Stormtrooper,
Yeah.
as I nicknamed him. I do like it, but the OT guy in me would think, yeah, I'd rather have a Stormtrooper or a Biker Scout or something like that. But yeah, really, I've got a lot of time of day for helmets. I've got a lot of time of day for them. I think, I would love to have a nice row of all the Imperial helmets that they've released. Not too bothered about the Rebels, but yeah.
I know. Again, it's another rabbit hole that you can go crazy down, and there's so many different levels of, quality from Black Series all the way up to, companies like Novos and stuff that make helmets that are $1,000 or whatever.
The Black Series ones are fantastic quality.
Yeah. I have a couple in mind, Mando and Bo-Katan, and I think up on the shelf, they look great. And it's something that when the kids come down in the basement, like, I don't really care if they put it on, and mess around with it, as opposed to one of those really expensive ones. It's a different story.
This is Charles Soule. You're listening to Fantha Tracks.
Right, next one from me, number 2 for me, is a book. Had to go with a book, so I thought, right, there's so many different books to choose from. So I thought I'd go for one that I haven't got, otherwise why would I want it for Christmas? And the one that I went with was From a Certain Point of View, and this was The Empire Strikes Back one. So I do have, from a certain point of view, the original Star Wars one, and there were some good stories in there, and there were some terrible stories, which is what you often find in the EU. I don't know, have you read From a Certain Point of View?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah.
You mean, the Force-sensitive Dianoga,
Yes.
You don't like that idea?
Well, the one that got me laughing was the one where it was cleaning the windscreen on the Star Destroyer with bubbles, and they couldn't see the fact that I loved, if anybody does want to read a sort of certain point of view stories that are far better than these, go back and check out Tales from Jabba's Palace and Tales from the Mos Eisley Cantina, because that was when Star Wars was far more serious. These are kind of a bit, they're almost Infinities-esque.
Yeah.
Where they've all got to be taken with not just a pinch of salt, but a shovel of salt. So that's not to say that some of them weren't enjoyable, because
they're entertaining.
But entertaining is right. Whereas at least the original ones, you could actually imagine that these things may have actually happened off screen, but not this one. So I thought maybe The Empire Strikes Back. There may be some good stories in there. I haven't read that one yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. I listened to the first one on audiobook, and it was definitely entertaining. And I see that they have a Return to the Jedi one too. And I don't know if it's available in audio form, but yeah, I thought that was fun. You definitely have to open up your mind, reading or listening to these types of stories, but it just expands, it fills in some gaps here and there, and it makes you think kind of outside the box when it comes to some Star Wars storytelling. I'm into comic books too, and I was kind of looking to see what had come out over the past year, and something that I would gravitate towards. And in the Marvel Mandalorian series, we had the first appearance of Ahsoka in that series from, it was from season 2, but the comics are now coming out this year. So we know how comics are these days. There's 1,000 variants, all different covers and everything. And I really like the original comic cover, but I was looking at some of the variants, and I found one that was from New York Comic-Con. It was a virgin color variant, and it has I think it's Gist is the artist last name. Has Ahsoka, Mando, and Grogu on the cover, and I really like the visuals of Mando and Grogu in the forefront, with Ahsoka kind of lurking in the back, and the virgin covers, if you don't know, it has no text on the front of the cover. It's just the artwork. So it's a very clean looking cover. So that was the one that really popped for me visually. And I figured, kind of mirrors my then list to my now list.
It's brilliant. I really, really love that cover. I've never heard of the Virgin variant covers. I'm taken away by that. That's like display piece quality. Lovely.
Yes, and that's kind of my mindset. I'm thinking, all right, this is a piece that, I would want to display, up on the wall or on a shelf or something like that, for sure.
I stopped collecting variant comics. I mean, I still collect the comics, but not the variants. And a friend of mine, he knows his stuff about comics, so I've got no doubts to disbelieve him. But what he told me was that I don't think anybody as big as New York Comic Con would do this, but say some of the smaller comics, if they would have an agreement to print, we'll just say 3,000 variant covers, and they pay the licensing for it, but then when they got them, they'd automatically pulp half of them and then release them in batches of 200 as being super rare to more than cover the money for the ones that pulped, and to make it harder for collectors to get them, to drive the prices up. And I thought that was entirely plausible. And I know there's a few people that have been driven out of the variant comic collecting market.
Yeah, I've scrapped the variant comic collecting, other than the ones that might be available at normal pricing and stuff like that, because it's just it's crazy. Some of these super low numbered ones. Yeah, the artwork might be amazing, but you also might have to pay $500 for it. So is it worth that every single, week or 2 weeks or month when the issue comes out? You're paying all this money for all these variants. Yeah, I had to jump out of that whole game, and I mean, I can appreciate the variant covers, but unless it's a key issue or something like that, it's not really worth spending all that money. Just for basically a duplicate copy of, one that I already have.
Yeah, absolutely. And the last one from mine, and I know a lot of people hate these. A lot of people do, but I already have the Star Wars A New Hope, and I have the Empire Strikes Back. So this is an A3 framed Star Wars Return of the Jedi movie poster, cast signed. They're displayed they are fairly cheap black frames, but you can put them in your own frame you want. But for the price of them, and for having something that is a poster, but also has some very obviously printed signatures on them, and as somebody who's not an autograph collector at all, I do actually like them, and they look well displayed on a blank wall. So I have actually asked for the Return of the Jedi one for my wife, so we'll see if I get it.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, absolutely. But I've got the other two, and I think this third one will set it off lovely. And now I do understand completely that people hate them and they say they're cheap looking, but the cheap looking because they're only 30 quid. In fact, the other two was only about 20 quid. I was a bit surprised that I've stuck an extra tenner on this one by the looks of it. But if you take into account getting a poster, getting them signed, getting them framed, good
Lord.
Exactly. You're looking at a fortune. So I love these, and I'll quite happily have one of those for Christmas.
Yeah, I agree. I'm in desperate need of posters representing the OT, especially Return of the Jedi. I've been kind of perusing what's out there in the background for a couple of years now, and it seems like original posters just keep going up and up in value. So yeah, like you said, I couldn't even imagine. Say this was an original theatrical poster, and it was really signed by all these people. I mean, you're talking, I don't know, maybe anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 plus. It's just like, no, give me this one, and it'll be a good representation of my, love of the movie and stuff. I'm right there with you.
Absolutely.
All right, my number one, we're going back to the 6 scale. It's one of my areas that I focus on, and I'm going with the Hot Toys Luke Skywalker Deluxe from Mando Season 2, which has a slightly damaged Dark Trooper included in the set. This particular Luke, we all saw the episode, peak Luke Jedi attire and abilities and everything. I really like this figure. It's one that I don't have in my collection yet, and I just really love that it's that nostalgia for that, how he looked in Return of the Jedi, and then seeing him show up in Mando season 2 there. Yeah, just a great figure, and a lot of them are, a lot of retailers are have these for lower than original pricing, so deals can be had out there. But yeah, I really like this figure.
I think you've topped everything that I put on there, because this is absolutely brilliant. And the reason why it's brilliant is not just the fact it's an amazing figure. It's a wonderful sculpt. It also is a perfect link to 40 years ago. And a lot of people like me are seeing this as the movies that we never got and we should have got. And to see, Luke in his prime before he becomes an old man in the sequels was just something that we all wanted to see. And you've pulled something out here that links the two eras wonderfully, and I'm looking at this now. So it's, I think I'm going to change your mind now. I think this trumps my Dark Trooper without a doubt. It's brilliant.
It's a really nice figure. The Luke that I have in my collection right now is Hot Toys Endor Luke, so that's my Luke representation. But I'm really torn on if I need another Luke in the collection. But this would be the one that represents that, because it does bridge that gap between the two eras.
You don't want another Luke in the collection. What you're doing here is you're buying the Dark Trooper and it comes with the Luke.
There you go. That's
the other way around.
That is a great point. That's a great point when my wife asks.
Well, Chris, I mean, we could talk all day about this. I honestly thought this was going to be a 20-minute episode.
We always do this.
But, I don't think anybody's going to disagree with all these, but I would love to hear what our listeners think of what, certainly their top 5s in 1983 and their top 5 now, because I'm sure there's loads of things we're missing. And especially now, I went on Amazon and I had a look at the top Star Wars gifts that have come back with something like 15,000 hits. And I know. The first 20 was utter tripe, so I thought, I'm not going through this. There's got to be a better way of searching. Yeah. Because no catalogues anymore. It's not as if we've got the Argos catalogue or anything like that. But,
I know.
There's some wonderful, wonderful things out. And the good thing about it for me is that Star Wars is still going strong, close to 50 years later. And it's certainly shown no signs of stopping.
No signs of stopping, and there's no lack of merchandise to represent that fandom out there. So, it's not too late to add to your Christmas list. So, maybe take note from what we put on there.
Well, Chris, it's been a wonderful show, and I think the last thing we need to do now is to wish all listeners a wonderful Christmas for those who celebrate it. Yep. Any other festive seasons and, religious seasons that our listeners celebrate. And, hopefully everyone has a fantastic new year, but most importantly, has something Star Wars under the tree.
That's it. Happy holidays, everybody. Take care, be safe, and have a great time with all your loved ones.
So thanks for listening to Collecting Tracks. If you want to be part of the action, stay updated on all the latest Star Wars news, visit fanthatracks.com or check out the free Fantha Tracks app through the App Store to follow us on your mobile device. You can reach out to us and send in your listeners' questions by emailing radio@fanthatracks.com. Comment, like and share on any of our social media feeds at Fantha Tracks, and be sure to subscribe, leave a review, preferably a 5-star one, on Amazon Music, Audible, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or your podcatcher or smart speaker of choice. And as always, thanks to James Semple for composing the Fantha Tracks intro, Andy Lythe for our Collecting Tracks open music, and Mark Daniel and Vanessa Marshall for our voiceovers. Remember to tune in to Good Morning Tatooine, live Sunday evenings at 9 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Eastern and 1 p.m. Pacific on Facebook and YouTube. Check out Fantha Tracks Radio Friday evenings at 7 p.m. UK time for new episodes of the Fantha from Down Under, Planet Leia, Desert Planet Discs, Start Your Engines, Collecting Tracks and Cannon Fodder, and every Tuesday at 7 p.m. UK time for your weekly episode of Making Tracks.
Coming up next on Fantha Tracks Radio, it's Making Tracks.